What's up, everyone, and welcome back to King's Advisors. Here we are at the end of Reacher Season 2. I just finished episode 8, and I've got to say it was a pretty good episode. There have been a couple of issues I've had with the season so far that I think this episode kind of fixed. One of the main issues I actually started an article talking about a while back. This season was helping Alan Richardson leave the show, which I think is a really dumb thing. I think he's definitely found a role that he could play for quite a while and has really owned. So I think this article that I read is just full of hogwash. But the thing that concerned me was that throughout the episodes, especially the first couple episodes, you could kind of see this. I think it was kind of a longing that Reacher had for these normal lives that Carla and Neely and David had, and that the other investigators who unfortunately passed away had as well. And so I was concerned that they were going to either mess with what makes Reacher Reacher, or there was going to have to be some big dramatic thing to force him back onto the road. And I kind of thought either the death of Carla or David would be the thing. Obviously that didn't happen. We know how it ends and all that. But let's go through this. Let me pull up the episode. As always, we're not going to play it. I don't want copyright strikes and all that stuff. And if you're watching this, you've probably already watched the episode. So I just kind of want to talk about this. So the episode starts with obviously Reacher has been captured. He's surrendered to Langston and his goons. And we get some really good dialogue from Robert Patrick. And I've got to say, I don't think they used Patrick enough in this show. He's a really good actor. And he brings with him a presence that I don't think a lot of other actors bring with him. And I don't know if it's maybe because he's older. Maybe there's some like tired thing. I don't know. But I just kind of wish they had used him more. He's got a great monologue here. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's not really a conversation, but the back and forth between Patrick and Reacher here. And of course, in this scene, we get our first kind of nice fight. Obviously, not the first of the season, but this episode is going to have a lot of fights. And we get to see Reacher be Reacher and basically take on every one of these goons by himself, which is cool. The first issue I had with the episode was this scene with Neely running around with a rifle. She's clearly about to take some guys out. So you can see right here, you've got a scope right here. But then she's got a magnifier right there as well. And with not being, less than probably 400 feet from your target, I just think that's unnecessary. But it's one of those things that I can overlook because the episode's good. Now, one of the things that did bug me is we see her take 2 shots, and they're very quiet shots. This is an unsuppressed weapon. It shouldn't have been quiet. Again, kind of a small detail. It happens throughout the fight that happens later in the hangar. There are a couple of weapons that are unsuppressed. There are a couple that are suppressed. And it kind of sounds like they just took the bullet noise from a suppressed weapon and put it with all the guns instead. So from here, we get sort of a realization. So Robert Patrick's been sitting here punching the crap out of Reacher, and then we realize that Swan is dead. All they did was keep a finger and an eye to pass the retinal and the fingerprint scanners. And I've got to say, that was really sad to find out. I really thought we were going to get, I guess, a happy ending. Now, that was definitely foolish of me, and I should never have thought that. And I gotta say, they did a really good job of keeping the idea that Swan's actually dead kind of out of your mind, because there's enough stuff throughout the show, throughout the first 7 episodes, that either bring him up or present him as a present character, just that we're seeing off screen. So because of that, the idea of him being dead actually never entered my mind. So from here, we get the big fight, and the big fight lasts probably about 10 minutes, I think it is. And there's really only, beyond the suppressed versus unsuppressed weapons of the fight, there's really only one thing that I was like, yeah, right. And so we get to this point where Reacher is starting to see Langston fly away. And he does something here that kind of took me out of it. I'm not going to lie. This was crazy enough that I was like, there's just no way. Sorry, man. And this is what he does. He jumps onto the wheel of the helicopter. I get that with the mythos of Reacher, there's kind of like a superhero prowess there, but you've got to keep it within possibilities. And this is, of all 16 episodes so far, this is the one thing that I've seen him do that I'm just like, no, no way. So everyone gets onto the helicopter minus Neagley. Neagley ends up watching him do this, going, "Oh my God, you're crazy." So Langston has loaded Carla and David onto the helicopter so that he can throw them out. He goes, "Ladies first," gets ready to throw her out. And then, of course, Reacher jumps in to save the day. Obviously, we kind of know how this is going to end. I talked about it 3 or 4 episodes ago when the episode ended with him telling Langston, I want to throw you out of a helicopter. So we know that that's going to happen. Here they are in a helicopter. There is one really crazy thing that Reacher does here. Carla, attached to her gurney, actually ends up falling out, and Reacher holds on to her while the helicopter is moving. It's better than the jumping onto the helicopter and basically climbing up it in flight, but it's a little campy. But I will admit, I did actually really like it. I was happy to see her actually survive because, like I said, the beginning of this and in a couple episodes ago, I thought her death was going to be the plot device that the writers used to push him back on his nomadic ways. But obviously that doesn't happen. And I was happy to see that. So my happiness of them not doing that kind of rose higher than my shock at the silliness, let's say. From here, we finally get to see him throw Robert Patrick out of the helicopter. Reacher does his whole line about assumptions killing in an investigation. And at the end of the day, what do they kill? They kill Langston. Boom. That was pretty satisfying. So obviously, we go from this great revenge to finally dealing with AM. And AM shows up and is actually surprised by the 1/10th. And he's sitting there and he's being very pragmatic, just, talking. He's kind of like this upper class British type guy who's just kind of talking about how I'm just the middleman. I don't actually fire the weapon. Just go ahead and arrest me, yada, yada. And that's not what happens. They straight up just light his ass up, which was a crazy thing to see. Like, holy crap. Wow. I expected AM to die. I didn't think he was going to be arrested or anything, but that wasn't quite how I thought it was going to go. So again, you've got a show here that's kind of laying down what you think is going to happen, and it still goes in that direction, but it gets there by a different route. And it's still one of those things that I enjoy about this show. Now, as we saw at the end of the previous episode, Reacher has been aided this whole time by that senator's bodyguards, basically, so a SEAL or SEALs and Rangers. And so the 1/10th goes out to the barn to basically let the pilot and the engineer that's sitting there waiting for AM to get there to go. But of course, what happens? Neagley fires the rocket and blows them up. One of the things that kind of surprised me was when we got to this moment that, we're halfway through the episode here and everything kind of seemed wrapped up. And I thought, wait, so he's just going to let that senator get away with everything? And the Rangers and SEALs that had helped them point their guns at him and get ready to kill him. And I'm like, holy shit. What? I honestly, I didn't see the double cross coming. But like always, Reacher, of course, did. And he basically says, oh, yeah, I saw it coming. That's why not only did I call the senator, but I called my friend Omar over at Homeland. And just as he's saying that, Homeland Security shows up and they arrest him. And then they arrest the senator. Reacher keeps the money, $65 million, disperses it among the different people. He gives money to all the families of the fallen members of the 1/10th. He gives money to Russo's brother, who is now caring for Russo's kid. And he pays back all the other members of the 1/10 for everything they've done by funding the care of Neely's father for the rest of their life, by putting money in accounts for David's kids so that he doesn't have to worry about taking terrible jobs so that he can pay for college for them, and by starting a LLC for Carla so that she can be her own boss. As we get to the end of the episode, there is a scene where they're all kind of drinking around a fire. And there's a really funny moment here where Reacher's explaining to all of them what he's done for them with that money, basically. And then David asks, well, what'd you get yourself? And he goes, well, I need a toothbrush. And they all kind of laugh. And then Carla looks at him and goes, I think he's being serious, guys. And it's just hilarious when you think about the fact that he's basically got millions of dollars and he's asking them to buy him a toothbrush. You know, you can tell that he's given away the majority of that money. The show ends with him getting on a bus and basically going off to the next adventure. So overall, I think this episode is, let's say, an 8. I think as a season finale, it's 7.5. I really like Reacher. I think Lee Child's books are really good, and I think he knows how to write this character really well. I do have to say that I think season 2 is not as good as season 1. I don't know if it's because there were different kind of leads in the show. You've got Carla's story, Neely's story, David's story. You've got what they're doing, and it's not always just looking at what Reacher's doing. I suspect that's probably one of the issues with it. There's other things that I've heard about how the show was done that I'll actually be bringing up on during the Witten on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. So feel free to join in. You know, we'll talk about it. We'll do a much more in-depth analysis of the season. I'm hoping to have some people on that have watched the entire show so we can discuss it. But overall, I do really enjoy the show, and I do think this is one of the better shows that is out there right now. I think Amazon has definitely found a story that's going to keep them going for a long time. We know that this is the #1 original show on streaming right now. So there's nothing else that is original on any streaming service that people are watching more than Reacher. That's from the second to last week of December Nielsen ratings. So we'll definitely see how this goes. You know, I'll talk about it a little bit more further down the line. But overall, I'd have to say the show did a pretty good job this year. I am excited for season 3, and I do hope that Reacher goes back to the nomadic ways of his character. I hope there's a little less interaction with multiple leads, and it focuses more on Reacher. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you got any questions, any ideas, anything like that, comment below. Let me know. And as always, follow us on Twitter at KingsAdvisors_.